floppy, rubbery, gelatinous substance is called a Tangzhong, and it's absolutely genius. A cooked mixture of flour and water that brings a fluffy cloud-like quality to homemade bread, including, but not limited to, the Japanese milk bread. Roll it! Hey home bakers, softness and lightness are not the only characteristics that a Tangzhong brings to the bread making party. Also, since we are incorporating more moisture and locking it in, it also helps our bread stay fresher for longer, as it holds on to that moisture better over time. The first time I did this, you could hear a penny drop for me, like, oh, of course it makes the bread better. How could it possibly not? Ow. You'll see a Tangzhong made with flour and water, or flour and milk, or flour and milk and water in a frying pan or a saucepan. Here's how I do mine. Here I'm using a frying pan so you can see inside better. That's the only reason. It is a heavy one, so I can get away with it without toasting the bottom. Milk and water go in along with the flour, and I'll whisk it together before applying heat. 1 to 5. Is the ratio, if you're interested. 1 part flour, 5 parts liquid by weight, which in itself is absolutely crackers, and we'll talk more about that later on. Then on a medium heat, I'll cook it until it begins to thicken, stirring with a spatula all the time. Then once it's thickened, I'll give it a minute or 2 cooking before spreading it out on a flat plate to cool. The reason I cook it a little bit longer after it's thickened is because if you just take it straight out onto a plate, it doesn't have that kind of rubbery, gelatinous quality, instead just being some kind of thick paste. Once it's cooled, we add it to the rest of our bread ingredients, and we continue to make our bread in the standard formulaic way we all know and love. Knead, rest, shape, rest, bake. There are recipes all over the internet, and here's mine. Ta-da! For the Tangzhong, we start with 30 grams of flour, 75 grams of water, and 75 grams of milk. We cook it up. We let it cool to room temperature. The end. Then for the dough, we add 15 grams of active dry yeast, or 30 grams of fresh yeast, 250 grams of milk warmed to room temperature, 1 medium egg, that's 50 grams of egg without the shell, 570 grams of strong white bread flour, 70 grams of caster sugar, 12 grams of salt, and 60 grams of soft butter. This recipe makes 2 loaves. Once it's all in the bowl, mix it all up and knead it nicely for 10 minutes. Then let it rest and puff up for 90 minutes to 2 hours. And I say 90 minutes to 2 hours because it doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you in the day that you're making it. And here's where things get interesting. Let's bring up the entire recipe back up here. What I'm most interested in here is the flour to liquid ratio. So let's get rid for now of the butter, salt, sugar, and yeast. Bye-bye. If we add up the flour in the recipe and the Tangzhong combined, we get 600 grams of flour in total. Now, if we add up the liquid elements, the water, the milk, and the egg, we get 450 grams of liquid in total. If we do the maths, we can find out the percentage of the liquid in relation to the flour. That's called a baker's percentage, and also hydration rate. Stay with me. This is as technical as it gets. After this is plain sailing. 450 divided by 600 multiplied by 100 equals 75, right? That means our hydration rate is 75%. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please don't leave. The hydration rate is simply a number that tells us how much liquid is in relation to the flour, so we are then able to take that information, compare it to other recipes, out of interest, because we're fascinated. We're coming back to the bread, I promise. 75% is quite a lot. To put that into perspective, my simple sandwich loaf, my go-to recipe, is 64%. That would be like me taking 66 grams of liquid out of this Japanese milk bread recipe, or 2.232 fluid ounces, if that is of any of use to you. I don't know, wherever you are in the world, maybe. That's quite a lot of difference. If I added, for example, that extra amount of water to my simple sandwich loaf dough, yes, it would be better in terms of the moisture retention, keeping quality and softness to a certain extent, but nothing Nothing in comparison to what you can achieve by cooking it and making it Tangzhong. Not only that, but the extra moisture would turn my nice and manageable dough into a sticky, tricky to manage mess, impossible to shape in any way close to a Japanese milk bread dough. Heat is the secret here. Let's look again at me carelessly mixing with a metal whisk in a non-stick pan like a reckless maniac. Apologies. I don't know what I was thinking that day. When all the flour is incorporated, the mixture is basically the same as it was. Runny water. Only now it's got flour in it, which no doubt would sink to the bottom had I left it for any amount of time. But heat turns this into a thick mixture. Now the flour holds on to the water in a manageable way, locking in that moisture. And so too does our dough, and so too does our final bread. It's face-palmingly, head-smackingly, I can't believe I didn't think of this earlier, genius. Wow, still here? Let's shape. Here I'm making two kinds of loaf, so I'll divide this into 2 pieces. One piece I'll divide into 6 for a round loaf, and the other 3 pieces for a tin. Roll them up all nice into balls and leave to relax for 10 minutes. Now for the round loaf, we flatten each of the 6 balls and shape them up into balls again. Seems pointless, I know, but shaping twice means we get better shape, better structure, and better dome on the top. Pop them in a round dish or pie tin like this one, which is 22 centimeters across, if you're interested. For the tin, flatten each of the 3 balls with a rolling pin. Fold in the edges and roll them up into a tight sausage exactly the same as each other. Get them in the bottom of a 2-pound loaf tin, cover and rest again to puff up for 90 minutes to 2 hours. This recipe, by the way, and all the footage that you're seeing in this video is from the latest drop of the Home Bakers Club, the online bread making learning platform that I created so you can make the bread as if I'm in your kitchen, at home, wherever you are in the world, at any time of the day you want to do it. You'll be following on-demand recipes in real time, meaning weigh your stuff, press play and do what I do as I do it. It's pretty cool and it's pretty reasonably priced too, I think. Go and check it out at bakewithjack.co.uk and come and see us in the club. When it's all puffy, take a look at this. It's beautifully silky, unlike any other dough I could possibly imagine, thanks to that Tangzhong and the additional moisture. The shape is incredible because the way that we shaped it up is beautiful, silky, smooth. Like, seriously. Egg wash both your loaves. Sprinkle some seeds if you like and bake with steam at 200 degrees C fan. That's 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Gas mark 7 for 20 to 25 minutes. And they will come out looking like this. Lovely and soft. Oh, it's a triumph. It is a triumph. 5% of the total flour of the recipe is in that Tangzhong. 5%. That is teeny tiny weeny. Cooked with 5 times the amount of liquid in that pan, that's effectively a 500% hydration dough that still holds its shape. That is totally mind-blowing. Only because we applied heat. That small amount added to the other 95% of flour and all the other ingredients combined makes a massive difference, bringing incredible characteristics far beyond anything you can imagine from something so small. And yes, for you maths heads out there, you can begin to use your Tangzhong in other recipes as you see fit. If you remember the numbers. Your Tangzhong is made up of 5% of the total flour in the recipe, mixed with 5 times its weight in liquid. Aim for 75% hydration in the final dough and you're laughing all the way to amazingly soft bread. Yeah, game changer. Don't forget, if you want to make this loaf of bread with me, you can do that in the Home Bakers Club at bakewithjack.co.uk. Only if you really want to learn how to make bread in your kitchen with the lovely me. It's a monthly subscription thing, so feel free to take a punt and explore what we have in this latest drop. We've got Japanese milk bread, we've got halloumi and olive ciabatta breadsticks, and we've also got a rather delicious but chocolate and banana bread plat was actually bread with crunchy sugar on the top, plus recipes of what to do with it after. It's a lot of fun. There's loads of stuff in there now, and it's all rather tasty, if I do say so myself. Thanks for being here. Thanks to all patrons. Thanks to all people who are members already. Thanks to everybody dropping super thanks, and I'll see you again very, very soon. I hope you learned something. Bye-bye.